Good evening and welcome to the Whisky Lovers Society with me, Gert Retief, and tonight, Speyburn. Well, this is going to be my second Speyburn attempt. The previous one was the 10-year-old, and just to make sure that I remember everything, I did pour myself a nice wee dram just to see what the nosing and the tasting notes was about. And I must admit, I do like the style of the 10-year-old. I like the lightness of it, and I like just the easy drinking, the big apple notes, the vanilla notes coming out. So for me, this was a real nice drinking whiskey. And I really liked it. I liked the nose, liked the taste, and nothing complex. So I thought myself it's a good idea maybe to up the level a little bit. So I wisely decided to get a sample bottle, try it before you buy it. I've bought so many whiskies on recommendation from other people, watching their channels and realizing that maybe my taste and my nosing and tasting is a little bit different, and I think it's a good thing that we don't all like the same nosing and tasting notes. So it might be that I love something, you might hate it, and sometimes, or most of the time, I watch a review. Even before I started doing my own reviews as well, I hear people ranting and raving about the whiskey. I buy it, sometimes a little bit way too expensive, but I buy it, and when I realize it's not really my taste. So for the people that are watching reviews on whiskey, sometimes it's good to find a reviewer that aligns with your taste. And of course, then you can at least have a good idea if a person is reviewing something that you would enjoy in the future. So of course, I had to step it up a level, and I bought a sample of the 15-year-old Speyburn, 46% ABV, natural color, non-chill filtered. And most of the time, for me anyway, if I step up the age statement, maybe a little bit, 5 years, 10 years, most of the time it does equates to something that's a little bit more special. Now, you've seen my thumbnail already. I was not really impressed with it. I was a little bit struggle. I did spend some time with it. There's good and there's some bad notes. A little bit of a spoiler, doing things a little bit different. People are not stupid. The thumbnail need to give you an indication of the outcome of the video. So maybe not going to be one of my best videos or my highly watched videos if people realize maybe I said something bad with regards to the whiskey that they like, and they will skip the video. But this is just an honest opinion. Now, natural color. Color-wise, for me, it's really nice. It is 15-year-old. I don't think there's any sherry cask influence. Now, I've done, as an example, one of the whiskies that I really enjoy, that I will say getting close to this one, or the 10-year-old, would be for me the Compass Box Orchard House. Now, if I go into the 10-year-old, that is so much in that direction of the Compass Box, the Orchard House. That same lovely, appley, vanilla-y, sweet notes, and I think that is why I really enjoyed it. So maybe my brain was telling me that the 15-year-old must be 5 years old better. And when I nose it, it's a completely different notes that I get. That lovely, sweet, appley note on the 10-year-old seems to be gone. I get I get a little bit, quite a lot, I get quite a lot of that 46% ABV. Feels a little bit youthful. If I compare it to the 10-year-old, I don't really get that ethanol type of nose, just a screaming apple cider note that comes out on the 10-year-old. What I do find is that the 15-year-old, just a little bit of time in the glass does make a big difference. That little harshness in that first pour completely disappears within minutes. When I get a little bit of a oakiness, like a dry oak. Now, I'm not sure how to explain it, but it feels or smells dry, a little dry note for me, an oaky dry note, and not sweet. Now, there's a sweet component, that little apple note is still there, but it is for me about 50% less of that appley note than the 10-year-old. A little bit of more like a red apple. And I also get a little bit of a peach note, or something, could be peach, apricot, one of those type of fruits. But the fruit feels a little bit of it's an overripe fruit. Maybe a little bit almost going into the rotten fruit, but not there yet, but just overripe. And that overripeness of the fruit gives a little bit of a strange note for me on the nose. But every time that I do go back, it lightens up, a little bit more sweeter on the nose, a little bit more vanilla. There's a little bit of a perfumey note coming out, and a little bit of that apple cider coming out, or fresh apples. So all in all, for me, the nose is pleasant, friendly, and something that I like to smell, but then you have to taste it as well. And that is where I picked up a little bit of things that I did not enjoy. So maybe today it's going to be a little bit different. I've been trying it for the last 2 days. Well, I'm always optimistic that with some time things will change. So cheers. First of all, on the taste. Now, I was expecting a little bit more of that 46% ABV, which for me always show a little bit of that maturity. You know, you are looking at 46%, you're looking at 15 years old. And for me, the older it gets, even at the higher ABV, it is like that alcohol mellows out and it's a lot more smoother on the taste. I definitely get it on this one, but a nice sweetness and a little bit more sweeter on the taste than on the nose. So that for me is quite pleasant. Let me just try again. It is loads and loads of toffee. The second sip, more sweetness, but after that initial sweetness, immediately I pick up some oak coming in. Quite a bitter oak. And with the second sip, it was a little bit elevated, a little bit more of that bitter notes. I just want to make sure, but I suspect the third one, and I've seen this, going to be even more oak notes. So cheers. Definitely. So there's a big oak build up. There's a little spicy note, a little bit of a hot heat coming out. And that initial sweetness, that caramel, that little bit of a toffee note, that little bit of a vanilla note, it quickly disappears and you are left with a bitter mouth. Loads and loads of oak notes coming in, not dark chocolate, just a plain bitter note, more into the espresso note, not the flavors of espresso, but just that oaky bitter notes that you get. So that for me was the first red flag that I'm not a big fan of oak or big oak influenced whiskey. And I think this one at that 15 years, it does have a huge influence on it. Now there's a lot of people that love oak notes. I like that bitter notes. Strange thing, I love coffee. I can drink bitter coffee, never had a problem with that. But once you add alcohol and the bitter notes together, it's not always so nice for me. Sometimes also you have a good balance, especially if it's a very sweet whiskey and you need a little bit of that bitter note just to balance the two out and create a harmony with the nosing and the tasting and the bitter and the sweet. This for me, it does go beyond that bitter note for me. It goes a little bit out of balance, but if you are not a fast drinker, I've said loads and loads of things already. If I go back now, with a small sip, when it is that bitter note that was previously in the mouth disappears, and I start the process again. So if you're a slow drinker, I don't think the bitter notes will make a big difference for you, because then the levels are really nice, for me anyway. So I do like that idea. I do like that idea that there is a little bit of a balance going on. But again, for me, I don't want to sit and sip for an hour on this one. So for me, it's a little bit different. That is the note that I did not really appreciate. And in the end, just want to make sure, there's a little bit of a sour note for me in the end. That apples is there. A little bit of a dry apple. There's definitely that toffee notes are still there, that vanilla notes are still there. It is a drinkable whiskey. And I think maybe a little bit, a drop of 2 of water will make a difference. I'm not sure, well, most people know that I normally would not add water to it. I always feel as soon as I add water to any of the whiskies, well, some of them were better, but it feels like I'm wasting my money. I'm taking something that they created at that specific level, and it might be the best level for it. So who am I to put water in it? Well, we all drink the whiskey the way we'd like. I would like to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Is this something that you've tried? Do you add water to it? Maybe that is something that you suggest. Add water to it. It will make a huge difference. For me, I don't like to add water to any of the whiskies. I try to keep it neat. Rather drink a lot less at the strength that they give it than adding water to it and then maybe ruin something that is nice. So let me know what you think. Add water or not. Maybe add the ice block. I don't know. Heaven forbid. But I must say it does change. And on the nose for me, perfect, but the nose promised me so much of this whiskey. And I tend to listen to my nose, and when I tasted it, that bitter note was a little bit too much for me. So a little bit, let me know in the comments, do you like it or not? Do you like the bitter notes? Maybe you don't like the bitter notes. Maybe you are on my side of the aisle. Let me know in the comment. So thank you very much for watching. On this Speyburn 15-year-old, 46% ABV. Let me just give it 1 second. You know, if you ask a Frenchman, how are you doing today? And they have a saying, comme ci, comme ça. It's like this, like that. Now, I think this explains this whiskey for me, comme ci, comme ça. So I am not really in favor of it, and I'm really not against it. I'm a little bit meh in the middle. Explains the thumbnail. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I see you next time. Cheers.